He was a pathetic, lonely background character. But one day, he got summoned to another world with cheat skills and ultimate riz. Now he can clap any girl he wants. The story kicks off like every typical high school anime, with the popular kids strutting through the hallway like they own the place while the rest of the students whisper and watch. Suzune is the queen bee, not only the student council president but also a total overachiever. Right beside her is Kazuki, a Rizzler who's also the vice president. They're basically the power duo of the school. Meanwhile, we meet the main guy, Yuzado. He's just your regular student, super average, and totally convinced he's invisible to everyone. He's the type of guy who blends into the background so much, he might as well be wallpaper. His biggest thrill in life, climbing a tree to put some lost baby birds back in their nest. But deep down, Yuzado secretly dreams of something more, something exciting that pulls him out of his boring everyday life. Cut to a rainy day. Yuzado forgot his umbrella and thinks for a second about stealing someone else's. But he's too nice to go full villain over some raindrops, so he waits under a roof hoping the storm ends. He stands there for hours like a soaked statue until Suzune randomly shows up and reminds him that students aren't allowed to hang around after school hours. Just when Yuzado thinks he has to run home in the downpour, Kazuki shows up and hands him a spare umbrella. Yuzado is shocked because he didn't think Kazuki even knew his name. Even more surprising, Kazuki is actually nice. They decide to head home together, and Suzune mentions it might be fate that brought them together. Yuzado, who's clearly a nerd at heart, immediately compares it to some rare video game event, walking home with the two coolest people in school. He almost ruins the vibe by saying everyone's gonna be jealous, but luckily, no one hears him. While walking, Yuzado tells Kazuki he assumed he was a player who only talked to girls for fun. Kazuki says he actually talks to girls because he feels bad for them. Suzune jokes that she'd rather talk to guys anyway. She's clearly way out of Yuzado's league, smart, athletic, and pretty inside and out. Yuzado basically turns into a fanboy. Then he blurts out the question on everyone's mind, are Suzune and Kazuki dating? The mood gets awkward, but they clear things up. They only hang out because of student council stuff. Yuzado apologizes for asking something so dumb, but Suzune brushes it off, saying it's better to ask than gossip behind their backs. As they keep walking, the three start chatting about their futures. Turns out, none of them have any real plans. Even Suzune, who's already a senior, says she hasn't figured out what she wants to do yet. She's great at everything, so nothing feels challenging anymore. She says she feels like she doesn't belong in this world, which stuns Yuzado. She's basically perfect, and yet she feels lost, something Yuzado totally relates to. Suddenly, Suzune and Kazuki stop. They hear bells ringing loudly. Yuzado doesn't hear a thing, but before he can ask what's going on, a glowing magic circle appears beneath them. He's confused and thinks it might be a portal to another world. Suzune, instead of panicking, gets excited and asks if he thinks they'll meet monsters and heroes. Yuzado is shocked by her reaction, but before he can process anything, the ground lights up and they vanish. When Yuzado wakes up, he finds himself in some grand hall, face to face with a literal king. Kazuki is freaking out, and honestly, same. But Suzune, she's loving every second of it. The king, who introduces himself with the super basic name Lloyd, tries to keep things formal. Kazuki, however, isn't having it and demands to know why they were brought here. The king's guard almost chops him in half for being rude, but Lloyd calms everyone down. He explains they've been summoned to this world as heroes. 2 years ago, this kingdom was attacked by a demon army. They fought back, but the demon king is regaining power. Now, the kingdom is using a forbidden spell called hero summoning to call powerful people from another world to help them fight. Kazuki loses it. He doesn't care about demon lords or hero quests. He just wants to go back to his normal life, flirting with girls. But there's a catch, the summoning spell only works one way. There's no going back. The king apologizes and promises he'll try to find a way to return them someday, but for now, he begs them to help. Suzune finally comes back to reality and questions how they were chosen if the kingdom doesn't even know who they are. A nerdy mage named Welsi explains that those who hear bells before being summoned are chosen as heroes. Bad news for Yuzado, he didn't hear anything. Welsi takes them to a special crystal that shows their magical powers. Kazuki checks if Yuzado is okay with all this, and Yuzado shrugs it off. He's just glad he might be able to use magic, even if he's not a hero. Suzune goes first. The crystal glows yellow, it means she has thunder magic and tons of mana. She's thrilled. Next is Kazuki. He barely touches the thing and it turns white. That's light magic, super rare and powerful, perfect for fighting demons. Suzune geekily guesses he can probably shoot laser beams or make swords out of light. Yuzado teases her for being such a nerd, but she kind of likes it. Now it's Yuzado's turn. He just hopes the crystal glows, even a little. And it does, turns green. Everyone says the color looks calming, but Welsi suddenly freaks out. Without saying a word, she drags him away. Turns out, green isn't just rare, it's dangerous. Welsi rushes Yuzado to the king and says his magic is something special. The king laughs it off and jokes about dark magic, but Welsi shuts him down. She hasn't even said what the magic type is because she's that nervous. Before she can explain, the king tells the guards to get Yuzado out of the castle, fast. Yuzado is confused. Is his power really that dangerous? He asks if anyone else has green magic. Turns out, there's only one other person, a terrifying woman named Rose, and the king doesn't even want to say her name. Too bad, because she crashes into the room like a tornado. Everyone freezes in fear. She's the captain of the kingdom's rescue team. But honestly, she seems more like a boss in a fighting game. She asks about the new heroes, and the king lies, saying Yuzado is just a normal guy who got dragged here by accident. Rose isn't buying it. She walks up to Yuzado and stares him down. When he mentions his magic color is green, everyone panics. Rose smiles like a maniac and says, "I'm taking him." The king begs her to reconsider. He knows what she's like, and Yuzado was never meant to be here. Before anyone can stop her, Rose grabs Yuzado. Welsi tries to teleport him away using a bubble spell, but Rose smashes it like it's nothing. She's fast, crazy strong, and clearly not someone to mess with. She catches Yuzado in seconds and announces that she's going to turn him into a proper healing magic user. Welsi faints from the stress. The king panics. But it's too late, Rose is already gone, dragging Yuzado into whatever nightmare training she has planned. Back at the castle, Suzune and Kazuki are just sitting around, doing absolutely nothing. But their lazy break ends fast when they hear the shocking news: Yuzado has been taken away. Welsi quickly jumps in to calm them down. She tells them Yuzado's life isn't in danger, but things still aren't looking good. He was sent to the rescue team just outside the castle town. Healing magic users are extremely rare in this world, and the crazy woman who dragged him off, Rose, is one of them. She's planning to force Yuzado into becoming her apprentice. Suzune can't figure out why this is such a big deal. Welsi, clearly exhausted by their cluelessness, explains things like she's talking to a 5-year-old. Rose's way of training is basically insane. Meanwhile, Yuzado is already at the rescue team's base. Rose tells him straight up that he's not a healer yet, but he has the potential. That's why she brought him here. This place will be his new home. She then calls out for her team to meet him. A group of massive, intimidating guys walk in. Yuzado is instantly terrified. They look like they could crush him with one hand. Rose introduces them and tells them to be nice, but judging by their looks, Yuzado's idea of nice is definitely not the same as theirs. The guys introduce themselves in the most intense way possible, and Yuzado wonders if he's been handed over as a human sacrifice. Rose tells them not to scare him, but honestly, she's the scariest one there. The brutes try to assure him that they're just being friendly, which only makes things worse. Yuzado thinks they don't even understand the meaning of kindness. Rose goes on to explain that while these dudes are her teammates, they aren't healers. There are 2 other healing magic users on the team, but they're usually out doing missions. Then it's time for the real talk. Rose says she's going to cram healing magic knowledge into his skull no matter what. Yuzado is still in full disbelief mode, silently begging for a way out. In his nicest, most polite voice, he asks if maybe there's another teacher he could learn from. Rose ignores him completely and says training starts tomorrow. She tells one of the muscleheads, Tong, to let Yuzado crash in his room and tells them all to eat dinner and get some rest. Once she leaves, the reality of the situation hits hard. The rescue team boys tell Yuzado he's doomed. Rose is going to train him personally, and what she calls training is going to be worse than torture. They even joke that hell might be a vacation compared to what's coming. The group laughs while Yuzado sits there wondering what kind of nightmare he just stepped into. That night, he lies awake wondering what's going to happen to him. But surprisingly, he finds a little hope. Maybe things won't be so bad. But even Rose doesn't know how this will turn out. The next morning, Yuzado opens his eyes and prays that yesterday was just a weird dream. But it's not, he really did get sucked into another world. Suzune and Kazuki show up to check on him after hearing he got kidnapped. He puts on a brave face and tells them not to worry, even though deep down, the fear of Rose's training from hell still lingers. Even so, Yuzado is ready. He's determined to go through with it because he wants to be useful. Suzune tells him they'll be starting their own training too, and all 3 of them agree to do their best. After they leave, Yuzado feels bad that they got pulled into this whole mess, but then remembers that Suzune is actually loving every second of this fantasy world. She's more excited than ever. She hopes she'll get strong enough to support the others one day. Rose appears out of nowhere and nearly gives Yuzado a heart attack. She tells him this isn't a prison, he's allowed to see anyone he wants, as long as it's not during training. She also gives him a journal and tells him to write down his training progress and thoughts every day. After breakfast, the training begins. Surprisingly, it's not that bad at first. Rose has him sit down and try to feel the mana inside his body. His only job is to sense it and learn how to bring it out. She gives him a book to help him study. Yuzado is surprised to see he can read the language, but it turns out all summoned heroes automatically get translation magic. Rose shows him a map and points out how close the demon lands are to the kingdom. That's why this place is always getting attacked first. The book is filled with info about demons and other races in this world, and she tells him to start learning. Day 1 is easy, and Yuzado thinks maybe he can actually handle this. But on day 2, everything changes. It's all running, non-stop. Yuzado starts to wonder if this is really how people learn magic. By day 3, he's running so much his legs give out and he collapses. But instead of helping, Rose smacks him, and he's shocked to find out that she healed his muscles instantly. She tells him to stop whining and keep going. Run like your life depends on it, she yells, and if you die, I'll revive you and make you run again. Yuzado doesn't dare argue. Instead, he mentally writes all his complaints in his journal. On day 4, he trains with the other rescue team members but quickly falls behind by an entire lap. They all start making fun of him, and he stays quiet, saving his anger for his journal once again. Day 5 and 6, still running, still getting insulted by Rose the whole time. Yuzado's frustration builds up, but he keeps it all bottled in. Then, during training, something crazy happens. He sees a faint glow of healing magic on his hand. It vanishes quickly, but it gives him hope. On day 7, it's more of the same. Yuzado runs until he nearly drops dead and Rose smacks him again. She seems angrier than usual. He starts to wonder if she somehow found out he's been bad-mouthing her in his journal. Then she launches him into the sky with her magic and tells him to start running again when he lands. Yuzado vows to write in his journal that she's nothing but a vicious gorilla. Day 8 is another brutal repeat. But on day 9, Yuzado realizes something big. He can now heal his whole body, not just small injuries. He finally understands why healing magic is actually important. He really needs it. By day 10, Yuzado discovers something else. He doesn't get tired anymore. No matter how much he runs, he's fine. He can now control healing magic on command. But he's still worried. All he's done is run. Is this really enough to help his friends in the future? Of course, if he asked Rose that, she'd probably punch him in the face. Actually, she gets mad anyway and tells him to do 30 more laps. That's when Yuzado decides he's done calling her Miss Rose. From now on, it's just Rose. Day 11, training levels up. Now it's push-ups. Yuzado somehow makes it past 800. Rose finally explains why she's making him train this way, so he can move faster in battle. The quicker he can run, the faster he can get to injured allies and save them. On day 12, he runs until noon, then does push-ups all the way into the night. By day 13, Rose realizes Yuzado is getting stronger, so she decides it's time to make things harder. She adds weights to his training. Then, on day 14, disaster strikes. Yuzado's lunch is gone. One of the muscleheads confesses to eating it. Yuzado snaps. He finally fights back. But to everyone's surprise, he's already used to the weights now. He's starting to catch up. A week later, Suzune and Kazuki come to check on Yuzado, and they're blown away by what they see. The guy has completely transformed. He's doing hardcore push-ups like a beast, and Rose is standing behind him, telling him not to complain about something so simple. But Yuzado doesn't complain at all. In fact, he casually says it's easy, even with Rose standing on his back, because she's so light. Amused by his guts, Rose tosses a rock onto his back too, but Yuzado doesn't quit. He heals himself and finishes the push-up without flinching. Rose is impressed and decides that she can take him somewhere important sooner than expected. Suzune stares, stunned at Yuzado's new muscular body, and Kazuki admits this training must be absolutely brutal. Then, a man named Siglis storms in. He's clearly mad and accuses Rose of ruining Yuzado. But Rose claps back, saying her methods are completely different from the Knight's and that she's training Yuzado to be her right-hand man. Yuzado is surprised by that. He had no idea she saw him that way. Rose explains it's because she respects how he never gives up. He's stubborn, hates losing, and most importantly, he's survived everything she's thrown at him. Yuzado realizes all those moments he wanted to teach her a lesson totally backfired. Now she sees him as the perfect student. Rose lets him take a break, and the others are told to relax too. A girl named Celia offers to take them on a little break. Meanwhile, Siglis tells Rose that he was ordered to re-enlist her into active duty, but he refuses to do it. Rose doesn't seem to care, though. She says her right eye is useless anyway. While they're out eating lunch, Yuzado finds out that Siglis is actually the commander of the kingdom's army and the strongest knight around. He's also the one training Kazuki and Suzune in sword fighting. Yuzado also finally realizes something obvious. Celia is the princess. He gets a bit flustered and apologizes for how casually he's been acting. They eat a strange pie-like dish, and Kazuki asks if Yuzado really trains like this every day. Yuzado tells him that today was actually easier than usual. Kazuki says their training is going well too, but nothing compared to Yuzado's schedule. Out of nowhere, Suzune cuts in just to check out Yuzado's muscles. The guy's jacked now. Kazuki tries to steer the conversation back and asks if the training is too much for him. Yuzado admits it was overwhelming at first. He seriously thought about quitting. Rose was terrifying and everything hurt, but now he doesn't want to run anymore. The training is kind of fun and he's starting to like his life here. His friends are impressed, but Yuzado says it's not about being amazing, it's just that he's really stubborn. He wants to be strong enough to support them because one day they'll all have to fight together. They all laugh when Suzune gets teased for being a little too obsessed with Yuzado's muscles. Ben, the huge meathead who stole Yuzado's lunch last time, shows up with a replacement meal. Yuzado hasn't forgotten, though. He's still holding a grudge and starts talking like one of the rescue team brutes. They start arguing, and it quickly escalates into a full-on fistfight. The big guy says he's going to knock Yuzado out, and Yuzado fires back, saying he'd like to see him try. They both start brawling. Celia nervously asks if it's okay to let this happen, and Kazuki shrugs, saying this is basically part of Yuzado's daily routine now. It's clear Yuzado has completely adapted to his new life, so Kazuki decides he needs to get back to training too. He doesn't want to fall behind. Suzune gets ready to leave too, but now she's starting to think maybe there's a reason the three of them ended up in this world together. That night, Yuzado soaks in a hot bath, thinking. He reminds himself to keep his riz in check so Suzune doesn't lose her cool again. Still, she's right, his body has changed a lot. All the healing after constant physical damage has made him insanely muscular. But even with this new strength, he knows his job isn't about fighting, it's about saving lives on the battlefield. And now he wonders if his mind is strong enough to match the body he's built. The next morning, Rose tells Yuzado they're heading out. The other rescue team members immediately get nervous. It's obvious they've been expecting this day with dread. At the castle gates, one of the guards practically freaks out when Rose tells him she's taking her trainee outside the walls. He runs off in a panic to open the gates. Another soldier watching the scene can't believe how intimidating Rose is. Just her standing there is enough to scare people stiff. Yuzado asks where they're going, but Rose tells him to shut it and just follow her. Eventually, they arrive at a creepy forest called the Darkness of Linger. This place is infamous for being filled with deadly monsters. Then Rose drops the bomb. Yuzado isn't allowed to return until he's taken down a Grand Grizzly. Yuzado thinks she's joking and tries to explain that Grand Grizzlies are just blue grizzlies that have lived for over 100 years. Even regular blue grizzlies are insanely dangerous. But Rose says he should be able to handle it. He reminds her that all he's done so far is run. He has zero combat experience. But instead of helping or explaining, Rose just launches him through the air directly into the forest. Yuzado's falling fast and thinks he's done for, but his healing magic activates on its own and his body glows. Determined not to die, he heals himself midair and manages to survive the crash. Now he's stuck in the forest with no backup and no way to return until the mission is done. He tries to stay positive and tells himself it's just a bear, right? But when he turns around, the bear is already behind him. It's massive, way bigger than what he expected. Even its claws look like they could slice a tree in half. Yuzado tries to escape using his speed, thinking the bear won't keep up, but he's wrong. It's just as fast. He reminds himself he survived Rose's nightmare training, so this shouldn't be worse. He suddenly notices the bear has backup. There's more than one. Yuzado screams at them for ganging up on him and books it. He hears rushing water and jumps into a nearby river to escape. Bears won't chase him into water, so they leave. Soaked but alive, Yuzado rests, grateful to have made it through day one. All he has is his ration pack and a small knife. He wishes Rose had at least given him something to start a fire. Taking down a Grand Grizzly seems totally impossible right now, but he decides to push that thought to tomorrow. That night, he makes a makeshift bed with leaves and gets some sleep. The next day, Yuzado begins hunting. He realizes he needs to understand his enemy better. He looks for clues and finds scratch marks on a tree. Suddenly, he hears rustling in the bushes and gets ready to fight. But it turns out to be a bunny. Well, kind of. It's actually a monster that just looks like a rabbit, and it's injured. Yuzado heals it without hesitation and tells the bunny to be more careful next time. He keeps moving, but the bunny starts following him. He tries to tell it to go away since he's searching for a dangerous bear, but the little guy won't leave. Yuzado starts to think maybe the bunny is trying to guide him somewhere. He follows, and sure enough, it leads him straight to the blue grizzlies. Yuzado hides and watches. They're a family. He doesn't attack right away. Instead, he goes to drink some water, but it's dirty and sketchy. Still, he tries it, and to his horror, it messes him up bad. His healing magic is barely working, and his stomach feels like it's on fire. The next day, the bunny shows him a clean water spot. Yuzado drinks it, and it's amazing. But something feels off with his bunny friend. It's acting nervous. Whatever scared this bunny must be terrifying. because it didn't even flinch around the grizzlies. Then, a sound comes from the forest. Yuzado turns to see a gigantic snake slithering out of the shadows. He's completely frozen. The thing is monstrous, and it gives off an insane killing aura. Yuzado instantly knows it's way more dangerous than anything in the books he read. Once it leaves, he finally exhales. He makes a mental note, never go near that thing again. 4 more days pass. Yuzado keeps watching the bears, but nothing changes. Still, he can't leave until the Grand Grizzly is defeated. He knows he has to face it sooner or later, so he tells himself tomorrow's the day. The next day arrives, but Yuzado's little bunny friend seems upset and tries to stop him from leaving. Yuzado gives in for a while, deciding to stay until the rain clears up. But once the sky opens up, he gently tells the bunny that he has to go. This time, nothing will stop him. Determined to finish what he started, Yuzado sets off. But when he reaches the bear den, he's completely horrified. He's too late. The entire family of blue grizzlies has been killed. He looks over the scene and notices the bite marks. It's obvious who did this. The giant snake. But it didn't kill them for food. It did it just for fun. To make it even worse, the little cub is still alive. It crawls out of the rubble, crying and trying to wake up its mother. Yuzado clenches his fists. He thinks about how much he hates losing, especially to Rose. But even more than that, he hates the fact that his target was taken away from him. And most of all, he hates what he's seeing in front of him now. He kneels in front of the cub and gently tells it to stay right there. He promises he'll come back and get revenge. Meanwhile, back at the castle, Suzune and Kazuki go to check on Yuzado. When they hear he's still in the forest after 10 whole days, they're shocked. That sounds way too long for any kind of training. The rescue team members don't have any answers. Rose is the one calling the shots, and she's not around. Kazuki's clearly worried, but Suzune believes in Yuzado. She's sure Rose wouldn't have sent him into the forest unless he was ready. Back in the forest, Yuzado gathers up his strength. He snacks on what little food he has left and starts crafting a spear. He then turns to the bunny, asking it to guide him to the snake. But before they go, he tells it to run far away as soon as they find it. The bunny leads Yuzado through the woods, and after a long hike, they finally spot the monster. The snake is there, and it's attacking the bear cub. Yuzado's heart drops. He told the cub to stay behind. It shouldn't be here. The snake is even more terrifying up close, but Yuzado tells himself, nothing's scarier than me right now. He charges at it. The snake seems confused at first, but it's just playing dumb. It goes for the kill instantly. Yuzado dodges and jabs at its eye with his spear, managing to blind one side. But the snake counters hard, smacking him back. Yuzado quickly heals himself and realizes he has to keep attacking from its blind spot. He charges again, but the snake clamps down on his arm. Yuzado screams in pain. He suddenly realizes he's been tricked. The snake lured him into a trap, but then he smirks. The arm the snake bit, that was the one holding his knife. He fights through the pain and stabs it from the inside of its mouth. It works, but Yuzado starts feeling weak. He's been poisoned. Not only is the snake massive and fast, but it's venomous too. But Yuzado has one edge: he can heal himself. The poison from the river water days ago helped him learn to heal from the inside. He uses that same technique now to neutralize the venom. He gets ready to strike again, but the snake's tail whips at him, and he's not fast enough to dodge. Right before the blow lands, the cub steps in. The bear cub charges and gives Yuzado the perfect boost. Yuzado jumps off its back and lands right on the snake. He yells at the snake, calling it an idiot, and slams down a punch with everything he's got. Then, he drives the spear even deeper into its head. The cub pins the snake down, and together, they bring it down. They actually win. Breathing heavy, Yuzado stares at the fallen beast, amazed they did it. The cub walks over and seems proud too. Yuzado wants to heal his new little friend, but all his mana is focused on curing the poison in his body. He can't move. Then something terrifying happens. The snake twitches. It's not dead. Yuzado's heart sinks. He's completely out of energy and can't even lift a finger. The cub tries to stand guard, but Yuzado tells it to run. He's not going to survive another round. As the snake closes in, Yuzado's life flashes before his eyes. He blames everything on one person, Rose. He shouts into the sky, "This is all your fault, you violent ogre." And then, she appears. From the sky, Rose drops like a meteor and stomps the snake flat. She insults the monster for being dumb and too weak to finish the job. Yuzado can barely believe it. He asks how she even knew he was in danger. Rose casually tells him that the bunny, named Kekuro, was her pet. She sent it to watch over him. Yuzado's jaw drops. Kekuro had shown up hurt and acted all innocent, but it was playing him the whole time. Rose smirks, calling him gullible. She'd been nearby the entire time but planned to stay out of it unless things got out of hand. She didn't expect that snake to show up. The creature wasn't just some forest monster. It was a weapon created by the Demon Lord's army. During the last invasion, Siglis tried to kill it but failed. She never thought it would be strong enough to take down a grand grizzly. That's what shocked her most. Yuzado is horrified. Rose wanted him, a total beginner, to take on that thing. He calls her insane. Rose calmly says she never expected him to win. This was about pushing him, letting him face something far stronger than himself. She got curious partway through and let it continue to see what he'd do. Yuzado snaps, saying he almost died. The bear cub backs him up, growling as if to agree. Yuzado remembers the cub is now all alone. He comforts it and tells it everything will be okay. Rose watches quietly and says she was right. Yuzado is a lot like her. She then turns to the cub and says, "You're coming with us. You'll carry this idiot who couldn't even die properly." Yuzado wonders if the cub is okay with that. But the bear seems mature and calm, ready to go. Rose lifts both of them up and carries them effortlessly. As they head back, Yuzado thinks about how terrifying she truly is. That's when she tells him she heard what he said about her being a violent ogre. He freezes. Then she grins and says he won't be sleeping tonight. Back at the base, Rose tells him the shocking truth: he passed her test with flying colors. He's stunned. He asks what that means, and she tells him he's now qualified to stand by her side on the battlefield. Yuzado isn't sure what to say. He still hasn't mastered the basics of healing, but she says that doesn't matter. He has the strength to endure pain, a good body, and more importantly, the right mindset. The two other healers in the rescue team never reached that level. She tells him to be proud, he earned it. Yuzado asks what she meant when she said they might make it. Rose reveals that the demon army will soon invade. Elsewhere, deep in demon territory, the demon lord prepares for war. He asks for an update on the invasion of the Linger Kingdom. Amila, the third army commander, reports that her forces are ready to march. They'll move soon. Meanwhile, Rose informs Yuzado that he'll be joining her on the front lines. His job will be to heal the wounded as part of the vanguard. Two other healers exist, but their jobs are different. Yuzado doesn't believe he can heal like Rose does, but she tells him there's still time and he must improve. Back in the demon realm, the demon lord assigns Amila to lead the charge. The Linger Kingdom slipped through their hands once before, and this time they'll finish the job. Amila is dismissed, but not before being teased by another demon, Hyruluk, a twisted researcher. He mocks her for being nervous. Amila glares at him, clearly annoyed. Hyruluk explains that he just finished his newest weapon, a venomous beast with a massive body and deadly fangs. He calls it Demonade Monster Prototype 72, Baljanek. He explains that his last creation vanished after it was wounded by the hero known as Siglis, but this new one is even stronger. Amila hopes so, because this time, they're not just facing warriors, there are others on the battlefield who are even more dangerous. They're not there to fight, they're there to save. The demons call them kidnappers, those who steal away the injured before the enemy even notices. They save lives and limit losses. Their leader is a combat medic who runs through the battlefield healing people mid-fight. Her name is Rose. Amila grits her teeth in anger. She hates Rose with a passion and swears she'll destroy her. But she can't fight directly this time, she's a commander now. So instead, she'll send someone else. A certain powerful figure. The immortal mage of darkness, the Black Knight. Back at the rescue base, Yuzado is finally enjoying something he hasn't had in ages, a real bed. He relaxes for a bit, then brings over some fruit to feed his little bear buddy. But the cub, now named Blurren, decides to snatch the apple straight out of Yuzado's hand. To make things worse, Yuzado spots Kakuro, the so-called cute bunny who completely tricked him with its innocent act. He tries to resist falling for its adorable charm again, but eventually gives in and feeds it some fruit too. That's when Rose walks in, looking surprisingly amused. She hears that Yuzado named the bear Blurren, a combo of blue for its fur and rin taken from Grizzly. Rose doesn't hide how ridiculous she thinks the name is, but Yuzado is proud of it anyway. Things get chaotic when Blurren accidentally bites his hand while eating. Rose lets Yuzado know that she already informed the kingdom about the bear, and they've agreed to let him keep it. But she makes it clear that Blurren has to pull his own weight. He's not just here to look cute. Like everyone else, Blurren is terrified of her, and Yuzado can only wonder what horrifying job she's going to assign the poor bear. Turns out, that job is being carried. Blurren becomes part of Yuzado's simulation training. Rose orders Yuzado to run while carrying the cub on his back, as if he's rescuing an injured person. Luckily for him, Yuzado is used to weighted running, so as long as he manages his mana properly, it's not too bad. But Rose demands he run faster. In a real battlefield, she says, "You won't have time to take it slow, the wounded won't last." Suddenly, Tong and another rescue team musclehead pop out of nowhere. Rose had secretly told them to simulate a battlefield ambush. They start chasing Yuzado down, warning him that the rest of the team is also waiting and hiding to surprise him. 1 hour in, Yuzado is dodging stink water bombs from one of the meatheads and trying not to get hit by attacks from another. 3 hours later, he's jumping over logs. 4 hours later, He's carefully dodging Kakuro to avoid stepping on the bunny. Eventually, he starts feeling weird. Something's off, his body collapses. Rose appears beside him and explains he's hit the limit of his mental endurance. On the battlefield, it's not just physical exhaustion that gets you. Fear, pressure, and impatience drain your energy faster than anything else. If he wants to get better, he'll have to train his mind too. She heals him with her magic but then tells him to spend the rest of the day running around the castle town with Blurren still on his back. Yuzado is shocked, but he obeys. As he runs through town, people stare, but not in fear. Yuzado expects them to panic at the sight of a monster on his back, but they stay calm. That's when Blurren leads him to a fruit vendor. They find a green fruit called a peffel, but Yuzado realizes he doesn't have any money. The merchant explains that no one's scared of him because they recognize the uniform he's wearing. He's with the rescue team. Everyone in town has seen the scary-looking rescue team members before, so they're used to it. It suddenly makes sense to Yuzado, if those brutes don't freak people out, nothing will. The vendor kindly gives him the fruit for free. As they leave, Blurren casually munches on Yuzado's hand again. Nearby, a girl named Amako watches Yuzado with interest. Something about the blue bear and the rescue team uniform catches her eye. Yuzado heads off to check on his friends, unaware that someone is trying to get his attention. Eventually, he hears the voice and turns around. It's a guy named Orga. Turns out, Orga is one of the rescue team's healers. He's surprised to learn that Yuzado came to this world with the heroes. Yuzado laughs and says he's been training so much, he barely remembers he was ever a regular high school student. Orga is impressed Yuzado lasted this long. He says Rose's training was too much for both him and his sister. She's also a healer, 5 years younger than him, and together they run a small clinic in the city. They're not frontline fighters, they help heal the citizens. Still, they're part of the rescue team and answer to Rose when needed. Orga explains that he collapsed earlier because he's terrible at healing himself, even though he's really good at healing others. Yuzado wonders what war will be like for them. Orga explains that while the fighters like Kazuki and Siglis go to the front, people like Tong and the others carry the injured back to a safe place, what he calls the rear. That's where Orga and his sister patch them up. When Yuzado says that Rose wants him on the vanguard, Orga is stunned. That's the most dangerous position of all. It's the front line, where people die fast. Yuzado admits that he's worried. He thinks about Suzune and Kazuki and how helpless he would feel if they got hurt and he couldn't save them. Normally, people just have to wait to die if they fall in battle, but the rescue team is there to change that. It's a tough and risky job. But Orga says Rose would never send someone unless she trusted them completely. Before leaving, Orga tells Yuzado not to hate Rose. She might seem cold and scary, but she's just bad at dealing with people. Yuzado surprises him by saying he's never hated her. Even with all their problems, he knows she's trying to make him stronger. After Yuzado leaves, Orga tells his sister, Yuru, that he met someone interesting today. He's sure she'll like Yuzado when they meet. Back at the castle, Yuzado walks in with Blurren. He's allowed through without issue. Rose had already spoken to the guards on his behalf. As he passes the training yard, he spots Suzune. She's happy to see him again but confused about what's on his back. He tells her all about the forest and his adventure, but she's more interested in touching the bear. Yuzado lets her, but warns he'll heal her if she gets bitten. Suzune sees herself as the animal-loving heroine of their story, so she's confident animals naturally love her. She is very wrong. Blurren slaps her hand away. Yuzado tries to smooth things over by saying the bear's just shy. Suzune tries again, this time calling Blurren by name, and he chomps her hand. Yuzado doesn't even pretend to comfort her this time. He jokes that maybe she has a tainted soul. Blurren then starts chewing on Yuzado's hand too, and Suzune laughs, wondering if he might have a tainted soul instead. After their little comedy routine, Yuzado notices that Suzune's hands are scratched and blistered. She explains it's from pushing herself hard during training. He gently reminds her to take care of injuries properly and heals her hands. Suzune blushes and asks if he really came all this way just to see her. Yuzado quickly says he came to see both his friends, not just her. Not exactly the answer she was hoping for. She changes the subject and says Kazuki went outside the kingdom to train by fighting real monsters with Siglis and the others. While they're traveling, Siglis informs Kazuki that the Demon Lord is expected to strike soon, and this time it won't be an easy fight. But he also tells Kazuki that having both him and Suzune has lifted the troops' morale. They're heroes, after all. Kazuki isn't completely confident, but he promises to do his best. Soon after, their group runs into a group of monsters, and the real battle training begins. When Kazuki returns, it'll be Suzune's turn to get real battle experience. Yuzado already knows she'll enjoy it, but she still wants him to worry about her a little. He says he does worry, but she calls him out for not sounding convincing. They laugh, and Yuzado walks away, not realizing just how comfortable he's gotten around her. As he jogs back, Yuzado thinks about how everyone's preparing for war. He wants to be strong enough to protect the people he cares about. In his old life, all he could do was admire others, but now, he's becoming someone different. That night, Rose checks in with him and is glad to hear his training is going well. But Yuzado says he still has a long way to go. There's more running, more training, he's not there yet. Before she leaves, he stops her. He brings up what she said earlier about the Demon Lord's army. Just thinking about that snake monster from the forest had him shaking in fear. He never wanted to step foot on a battlefield. But today, something changed. He felt something stronger than fear. Now, he knows he can fight, but not to take lives. He wants to save people. That's his job. That's what the rescue team is for. Rose listens, then smiles. That's exactly what she wanted to hear. He's not there to kill, he's there to drag people back from the edge of death. To rip the injured away from the enemy before it's too late. To defy death itself, even if it risks his life. And Rose wants him to keep thinking that way, because that's what it means to be a true member of the rescue team. And for the first time, Yuzado finally feels like one of them. The next morning, Rose shows up with a message from the king. It's time for Yuzado to head out. He's going to join Suzune's training outside the kingdom walls. Yuzado is confused. Why does he have to go with her? Kazuki had Siglis guiding him, so what gives? Rose explains that Yuzado was supposed to go with Kazuki, but he had just gotten back from surviving the forest. Now, he's needed in case a healer is required during Suzune's training. She reassures him that it's just temporary. He'll be back in 3 days. Suzune is thrilled to see Yuzado again, but even more excited to see Blurren. She assumes Yuzado brought the bear along to help them build team chemistry. Yuzado quickly shuts that idea down. Blurren just doesn't like anyone else, so he had no choice. Suzune then introduces Yuzado to the others in their group, Aruku the knight and Korin the mage. Yuzado recognizes Aruku. He was just a background soldier who used to guard the castle gate. Now he's part of the squad. Before they leave, Rose gives a serious reminder Yuzado's healing magic is powerful, but it's not all powerful. It can heal injuries and cure poison, but it cannot bring someone back from the dead. Suzune nods in full understanding. Rose believes they'll be fine. Suzune trained under Siglis, and Yuzado, well, she doesn't say anything to him. He didn't expect her to, anyway. As they head out, Suzune mentions how Kazuki was completely wiped out after his training, but he still said it was worth it. He fought tons of monsters in a place just beyond the forest Yuzado had trained in, and now it's their turn to go there too. Yuzado wonders if Blurren misses the forest, but for now, the bear's asleep. Suzune tries to sneak in a little cuddle time with the big furball, but Yuzado blocks her. She teases him for acting so protective and wonders if he's turning into a misogynist. Blurren eventually wakes up, still groggy. Suzune excitedly asks if she can carry him on her back. Yuzado says that's a terrible idea, but she ignores him, enjoying Blurren's fluffiness until she immediately collapses under his weight. Yuzado quickly heals her. Korin suddenly senses something, multiple presences up ahead. Aruku tells everyone to stay back. A group of bandits steps out of hiding, annoyed they were found early. They were planning an ambush, but now they'll just rob them the old-fashioned way. Aruku refuses to hand anything over. The bandits outnumber them, but Yuzado doesn't find them scary at all. He tells Suzune they're weak and not worth stressing over, but she's still amazed. This is her first time seeing real bandits. The bandits spot Blurren and, mistaking him for just a rare animal cub, decide to capture and skin him. Suzune immediately attacks in his defense, launching a powerful lightning spell that knocks one back. Yuzado is impressed. She pulled off a strong move without even seriously injuring anyone. The bandits switch tactics and try to close in, hoping to dodge her magic. Yuzado starts calling out attacks like she's a Pokemon. Thunderbolt, Suzune. She zaps the bandits again but tells him not to treat her like Pikachu. Aruku joins the fight, but before they can finish the skirmish, a sudden stampede of boars charges in. These beasts normally live deeper in the woods, so their appearance here is unexpected. Blurren rushes in to help fend them off. Yuzado throws himself in front of Suzune to block an attack and uses his magic to cushion their fall as they both crash through some trees and into a river. Suzune gets up and sees Yuzado unconscious. She panics and vows to carry him to safety, but he suddenly wakes up, completely fine. Turns out, he just needed a quick break after pulling her out of the water. He's more embarrassed than injured. She apologizes, but Yuzado says he wouldn't want to be stranded with anyone else. They've survived worse together. He even points out this is the same river he fell into during his forest training. They check their supplies and realize they don't even have enough food for the night. Suzune wants to focus on getting out of the forest, but Yuzado warns her it's going to be dark soon and it may rain. He suggests they camp out in a tree like he did before, but Suzune shyly admits she's never climbed one. She always wanted to, but her strict parents never let her. Yuzado decides on a safer option, a cave. He also advises her to change out of her wet clothes. She makes him promise not to peek first. Once dry, Suzune uses her lightning magic to catch fish and even spark a fire. Yuzado is impressed. She's making this survival thing way easier. She sits at a distance from him, a little awkward, and notices again how ripped he's gotten. Suddenly, venom monkeys appear. Yuzado's never seen one in real life before. Suzune finds one of the babies adorable and pets it, even though he warns her they're poisonous. Of course, the baby bites her. Suzune, still smiling, insists she's fine, then collapses. Back at the castle, Korin's familiar reports to the king, Suzune and Yuzado have gone missing. The king didn't want to tell Kazuki, but Celia convinced him otherwise. They're planning to send a search team out in the morning. Kazuki isn't satisfied and tries to leave immediately, but Rose stops him. She tells him not to worry, if Suzune and Yuzado are together, they'll be fine. Yuzado's her subordinate, and she knows he's not that easy to kill. Back in the forest, Yuzado's actually doing great, mostly thanks to Suzune. She's become a huge help, even though she doesn't like being treated like a survival tool. Still, Yuzado admits she's been amazing. He tells her to get some sleep, but she insists he should rest first. He's the one doing all the healing, after all. As the rain starts falling, Suzune checks if Yuzado's asleep yet. He's still awake. She asks if he ever wants to go home. He admits he does, but he also has reasons to stay. Without hesitation, she says she doesn't want to go back. Yuzado's surprised he doesn't ask why, but he already knows. He guesses it's because she feels more free in this world, and he's right. Suzune opens up. In their old world, she felt like she had nothing left, family, friends, her entire past. She would give it all up just to stay here, where she can finally live for herself. Yuzado understands. He felt the same way. He was tired of his boring life, tired of being passive. At first, he just didn't want to be a burden to Suzune and Kazuki, but now, he wants to protect them, and the kingdom, as a real member of the rescue team. Suzune smiles. She wants to protect this world too, as a hero. They make a promise to forget their past world and protect what they have here, together. Suzune is amazed at how much Yuzado has grown, and Yuzado admits that she seems more relatable now. He used to see her as this flawless, unreachable girl, but now he treats her like an equal, and she likes that better. Things get a little awkward, so Yuzado decides to sleep. Suzune teases him about getting flustered but wishes him a sweet good night. The next morning, the two search for a way out of the forest. Suddenly, something big charges toward them. It's just Blurren, who instantly tackles Yuzado in a bear hug. Eriku is with him, but totally exhausted. Once he catches his breath, Eriku explains they were scouting the forest's edge when Blurren suddenly bolted off. Turns out, the bear picked up Yuzado's scent and ran straight to him. Blurren sniffs the air and starts moving again. Yuzado tells everyone this used to be Blurren's home. He shares the tragic story of how the cub's parents were killed by that monstrous snake. Everyone goes quiet, feeling for the little bear, but Blurren walks forward proudly. Suzune smiles and says that he's made his decision. Blurren knows where he belongs now, right by Yuzado's side. It's time to go home. After finally returning to the castle, Yuzado and Suzune are greeted by the king, who looks visibly relieved to see them safe. Suzune politely apologizes for causing concern, but the king shakes his head. He says he should be the one apologizing. He feels guilty for dragging Yuzado into all this in the first place, but Yuzado just shrugs it off. He's gotten used to life-threatening chaos at this point. Then he realizes that sounding too comfortable with dangerous situations might make Rose look bad, so he quickly changes the subject and claims he was talking about stuff from his old world. The king, curious, asks how his training with the rescue team has been going. Yuzado lies again and says everything's been easy and smooth. One glance at Rose, and he notices something strange. She's smiling like he gave exactly the answer she wanted. That freaks him out a bit. Has she been psychologically conditioning him this whole time? Rose and Siglis are asked to stay back for a private talk, and their serious expressions leave Yuzado wondering what that conversation could be about. Later, Kazuki arrives and immediately calls Yuzado out for being too relaxed. He was seriously worried about them while they were gone. Celia jumps in and reveals that Kazuki was about to rush out of the castle to go find them. Suzune teases him for being reckless, but Yuzado fires back by reminding her she's the one who got bitten by a venom monkey. When Yuzado tries to tell the story, Suzune cuts him off in embarrassment. Kazuki says Rose reassured him that Yuzado would handle things just fine. That amazes him. He never expected her to have so much faith in someone. Yuzado, though, knows better. If she said the forest was safe, it's probably because it's still easier than her training room. Yuzado looks Kazuki in the eye and tells him to never change. Only he and Rose are allowed to be tainted by how twisted this world can be. As they go their separate ways, Celia comments on how close the group is getting. Kazuki assumes she means Suzune and Yuzado, but she corrects him. She's talking about all of them. They've grown tight, like a real team. Kazuki admits it's because they were already friends back in their world. Wanting to be part of that connection, Celia asks Kazuki not to address her so formally anymore. She apologizes if she's being too forward, but Kazuki agrees and calls her Celia with a smile. Later, at the castle, the king gathers information from the captured bandits who had attacked Yusado's group. Minister Sergio reveals that the bandits noticed something strange. There were far fewer monsters in the area than usual. Shortly afterward, they were attacked by a herd of beasts fleeing from the plains. That can only mean one thing: the monsters are running from something terrifying. Siglis speaks up. He's convinced this is a sign that the Demon Lord's army is on the move. Unlike before, this time they won't hold back, they'll throw everything they have into the assault. The king orders the military to prepare and then makes a difficult request to Rose. It's not something he'd usually ask of the rescue team leader, but Rose is already ahead of him. She knows exactly what he wants. He wants her to scout the Demon Lord's army and find out how far they've advanced. She agrees without hesitation, even though it's dangerous. But the king has another request. He asks Rose to return to her former post as battalion commander. She flat out refuses. She says she carries more guilt than the king can possibly imagine. She was the first healer ever to be appointed as a battalion commander, and her entire squad died under her command. She touches her scarred eye, explaining that she accepted their deaths a long time ago. But the scar serves as a permanent reminder: no healing magic can erase what happened. It's her punishment, one she can't forget. The king tries to tell her it wasn't her fault, but Rose cuts him off. Her arrogance got them killed, and she's been carrying that shame ever since. That's why she formed the rescue squad, not to fight, but to save as many people as possible. The king reminds her how many lives she and her team saved in the war 2 years ago. But for Rose, it's not enough. She wants more than victory, she wants to raise someone who won't die. The king says that's not realistic. No one can survive everything. Rose disagrees. That's what all the brutal training is for: healing magic, physical conditioning, and unshakable willpower. She's been searching for someone who has all three, and now she's found him. Yuzado. He's quick to adapt, impossible to keep down, and always finds a way to survive. He's stubborn, smart, and has a strong instinct to live. He even stands up to her. He reminds her of the fallen soldiers she couldn't protect, and she's determined to make him the ultimate healer. Rose ends her emotional speech, apologizes for getting too intense, and leaves to head to the kingdom's border. That night, Yuzado finds a letter from her. It says there's no training tomorrow. Instead, she wants him to deliver another letter. She already told the others she wouldn't be joining them for dinner, and Yuzado starts to wonder where she went. Meanwhile, on the demon side, Amila is overseeing the construction of a massive bridge. She orders her troops to give it their all for the Demon Lord. Watching nearby is the Black Knight, clearly annoyed by her enthusiasm. He says she's going too hard, but Amila reminds him that she outranks him now, even if they used to be equals in the Second Army. He grumbles and obeys. Hyreluk, the creepy demon scientist, informs her the bridge will be finished in a few hours. After that, their full-scale invasion of the Linger Kingdom can begin. Suddenly, one of the demons reports that a Linger scout has been spotted. Amila isn't worried. By the time the scout warns anyone, it'll be too late. She's dead wrong. That scout is Rose. A moment later, a tree trunk comes flying through the air and smashes the bridge apart. Amila is furious when she realizes who threw it. What was supposed to be a scouting mission has turned into a warning shot. Rose has just bought the kingdom precious time. The next day, Yuzado goes to deliver Rose's letter. Strangely, people keep staring at him, even though he doesn't have Blorin with him this time. A familiar old merchant offers him some fruit again, but he says he'll come back later. From the shadows, a strange girl watches him. Yuzado arrives at the Fleur Clinic and meets Yuru, Orga's sister. She remembers him from her brother's stories. She introduces herself properly, and Yuzado steps inside. Orga is busy treating a patient, and Yuru lets Yuzado quietly observe. He watches Orga's healing magic. It's bright, fluid, and far more refined than his own. The patient, a kid, calls them both weirdos, but he's healed quickly and leaves. Yuru asks how the rescue squad is doing. Yuzado jokes that they're still stomping around with bad guy faces. He remembers hearing Yuru was once part of the rescue squad too. She says she was, but she couldn't keep up with Rose's training. It overwhelmed her, and over time, she started to fear Rose more than admire her. Orga reads the letter but doesn't say what it contains. Yuru explains how hard Rose trained both of them when they first joined. They had high hopes, but it didn't go as planned. Still, she admits that Rose seems happier these days. Yuzado thinks that's because she's found a new punching bag, him. Suddenly, a messenger arrives. Someone fell off a roof and got hurt, and 2 others were injured too. Orga asks Yuzado to come help. They rush to the scene. Orga is tired and struggles to stay on his feet, so Yuzado takes over. It's the most intense healing he's ever done. Until now, he's only treated minor wounds on Kazuki and Suzune. But in a real war, things will be far worse. He'll have to perform healing in the middle of chaos. Orga notices his hesitation and reminds him, it doesn't matter who or where, you just need to believe you can save them. Those words stick with Yuzado. Even Rose believes in him. He calms down, focuses, and successfully heals the injured man. Orga and Yuru both praise his work, and Orga invites him to stop by again sometime to lend a hand. As Yuzado leaves, Yuru tells her brother that he looked cool giving advice, but Orga turns serious. The letter said that the Demon Lord's army is getting close. They've officially been summoned for war. Yuzado doesn't have battlefield experience, so he'll have to rely entirely on faith in his own power. Orga is confident that Rose will lead them well, but promises to do everything he can too. Later, Yuzado returns to collect the fruit the old vendor offered, but a strange girl stops him. She says something cryptic, "You're the only one who can see it. That's why this is a future you can change." Yuzado has no idea what she's talking about until her eye begins to glow. Suddenly, terrifying visions flood into his head, war, chaos, and the worst part: the Black Knight murdering his friends. Yuzado is frozen. His heart pounds. He can barely breathe. The girl tells him this was her gift to him. Now he knows what's coming, and now he owes her. Before he can even react, she disappears. Yuzado, still shaken from the vision the fox girl showed him, runs through the streets trying to find her. He's desperate for answers. Why did he see his friends die? What was that terrifying future? The girl watches quietly from a distance. In her mind, Yuzado is the only one who might be able to rewrite what's coming. He stops to ask a castle guard if he saw a fox-eared girl pass by, but the guard hasn't seen anything. Suddenly, Rose appears behind him and scares the poor guy off with just her presence. Yuzado can't help but pity him, but at the same time, he totally gets it. Rose grabs Yuzado, rough as always, and demands to hear more about how scary she is. Yuzado dodges the subject by quickly changing the topic to her latest mission. She casually reveals that she destroyed a bridge the demon army was trying to build while she was out scouting. Yuzado, sarcastic as ever, points out that blowing up enemy construction sounds a lot more serious than just scouting. In response, Rose puts him in a headlock again. After letting him go, she tells Yuzado that she's seen the fox girl before. The girl first showed up 2 years ago. She's only 12 but somehow managed to make it all the way to the capital, avoiding bandits and kidnappers along the way. That alone makes her unusual. Demi-humans like her, beastfolk, are often targeted by bandits, either because of their looks or their potential to use rare forms of magic. Yuzado wonders aloud if this rare magic could include visions of the future, like what he saw. Rose nods slowly. There are rumors of beastfolk with a gift called precognition, the ability to see possible futures. If true, they'd be incredibly rare and tightly protected back in their homeland. She presses him a little. Why is he so curious about this? But Yuzado plays it cool and says he just read about beastmen in a book and found it interesting. That night, the king thanks Rose for delaying the demon army by destroying the bridge. But she warns him that another one will probably be finished within days. The king decides it's time to prepare the public. He plans to make a full announcement tomorrow, but first, he wants to speak with Suzune and Kazuki privately. As Suzune and Kazuki head to the meeting, they bump into Celia. Kazuki's interaction with her is brief and awkward. After saying a few polite words, they go their separate ways. Suzune, curious, asks Kazuki what happened between them, but he brushes it off. Meanwhile, Yuzado can't sleep. His mind keeps looping through that terrifying vision. His friends dying, the Dark Knight standing over them. If that's the future, what can he do? Then he remembers what the fox girl told him. He is the only one who can change that future. Looking out the window, Yuzado spots Kazuki sneaking around the grounds. He goes to check on him, and the two end up talking about everything they've been going through. Kazuki admits something he's never told anyone: he's scared. Not just now, but even back when he first fought monsters. His legs froze up. He barely managed to fight back. And now that a real war is coming, he feels the same fear. He says everyone believes in him. They see him as a hero, and that pressure is eating him alive. Yuzado listens quietly, then finally speaks. He tells Kazuki that he always thought Kazuki was fearless, but now he sees how much weight Kazuki's been carrying. You don't have to meet everyone's expectations, Yuzado says. Sometimes, it's okay to put yourself first. Then Yuzado looks him in the eyes and says something simple but strong: I'm going into battle. I want to help save the people who are risking their lives. Yeah, I'm scared too, but I've already made my choice. Kazuki reminds him that he wasn't even supposed to be there. He was just dragged into this by accident. Yuzado nods. Yeah, maybe. But since then, I've met so many people. People who've helped me find where I belong. You're one of them. He tells Kazuki that even if he decides not to fight, they'll still be friends no matter what. Those words hit hard. Kazuki stands up straighter and says that he will fight. Not for some heroic title, but for Yuzado and Suzune. He may not be sure about being a hero, but he knows he wants to protect his friends. They agree to stand together and protect everyone they can. Yuzado cringes a little at how sappy he sounded, but Kazuki assures him that it was exactly what he needed to hear. Just then, Suzune shows up and teases them for their heartwarming bromance. Yuzado groans that he's too tired to deal with her mocking, but she keeps at it. She tells Yuzado she knew something was off with Kazuki, that's why she followed him. But she's glad Yuzado helped him. Yuzado admits that a part of him doesn't want to fight. Suzune asks if he doesn't want her to fight either. He hesitates, and then says he'd rather she didn't. But he knows she's already made her decision. She's chosen this world. She nods and quietly walks away. Tomorrow's going to be a big day. The next morning, the king stands before the people of the kingdom and announces the truth: the demon army is coming. They plan to intercept the invasion on the open grasslands. 2 years ago, they pushed the demon army back. But this time, the enemy will be stronger. Still, the king believes in their strength. They now have 2 heroes, Kazuki and Suzune, and the help of the rescue squad, who will be critical in battle. He finishes his speech by declaring that they will win. The crowd cheers. Later that day, Kazuki pays a surprise visit to Celia. He apologizes for coming without notice, but she's happy to see him. He tells her that he's going into battle and asks her to pray for him. Celia nods and quietly says she hopes he returns safely. He promises that he will. He'll protect the country, and he'll come back to see her. Celia is stunned but happy, and they say goodbye. Elsewhere, Yuru is trying to pet Blurren, but Yuzado warns her Blurren doesn't trust strangers. Sure enough, Blurren slaps her hand away. Yuru keeps trying and keeps getting smacked. A small bunny hops over to comfort her, but Kukiro, the bunny Rose owns, joins forces with Blurren and pushes her back again. Poor Yuru just can't catch a break. Orga watches all this and tells Yuzado that Yuru is just nervous. It's her first time going into battle. All this chaos is just her way of hiding how scared she is. Then, Yuzado gets called to Rose's room. He realizes he's never actually been there before. He starts freaking out, worried she might have set up some new torture method. But when he arrives, she's calm. She just wants to talk. She asks him to explain what he thinks his job is during the battle. Yuzado answers, to heal the injured near the front lines, right beside you. Rose says that's part of it, but the start of the battle will be different. Most of the injured will be taken back to the rear for treatment. Yuzado will be working with Orga and Yuru during that phase. It's only later that he'll be needed closer to the front. But she gives him a warning, don't heal the wrong people. Yuzado thinks she means don't help the enemy, but she calls him an idiot. She means don't try to heal people who are still fighting. Some fighters are wounded but still pushing forward. If Yuzado steps in too early, he could mess everything up or get in the way. It's his job to decide, in a split second, who really needs help. Yuzado nods, he understands. Then, Rose hands him something important, his official rescue squad uniform. It's bright and bold, designed to stand out during battle so people can find him. Yuzado is thrilled. Rose grins and says that it fits perfectly now, he's built enough muscle to wear it right. She grabs him again and reminds him, very seriously, healers aren't invincible. Once they die, it's over. The one thing he must never do is take his own life for granted. Yuzado says, of course I don't want to die. But Rose isn't convinced. She tells him that too many people say that and still end up dead. Being part of the rescue squad means saving lives, including his own. She says if he ever talks about self-sacrifice, she will personally make sure he dies before the enemy gets the chance. Yuzado gets the message loud and clear. He stands tall and says, I'll save everyone, including myself. Rose looks him in the eye and asks, you think you can really do that? Yuzado doesn't hesitate. You're the one who told me to speak my ideals. Yuzado kept thinking about the vision the fox girl showed him. Whether it was truly the future or not didn't matter, he knew one thing for sure, he would not let Kazuki or Suzune die, no matter what it took. Soon after, the group left for a temporary base camp to prepare for battle. The journey felt too long for Yuru, who kept complaining, but they needed to put distance between themselves and the capital before they could even think about fighting. As they traveled, Yuzado turned to Rose and asked what the demons were actually like. Rose explained that most demons look human, but don't let that fool anyone, they're much stronger and have more mana than regular people. And that wasn't just true for the officers. Even the foot soldiers were tough. Rose smirked and asked if Yuzado was getting scared, but Yuzado shook his head. I've already met someone scarier than demons, he said with a grin. Rose blinked in disbelief. You really think a random guy who got ice-guyed by accident could become this strong? Yuzado replied, you're the one who trained me like a maniac. Honestly, at first, I just wanted to outdo you. He braced for one of Rose's usual rough reactions, but she didn't hit him or insult him. Instead, her face turned serious. She drifted into deep thought, thinking back to the past. 5 years ago. Back then, Rose was the battalion commander of the Linger Kingdom's elite knights. A report came in, demons had been spotted in the grasslands near the border. The king issued strict orders, merchants had to be protected, but direct contact with demons had to be avoided at all costs. They were simply too dangerous. Rose and Siglis both suspected that this wasn't just a small scouting party. They might be gearing up for a full-on invasion. Siglis started preparing his men. Rose began readying her battalion. While she was focused on planning, a voice called out to her. It was all one of her knights, but Rose, distracted, snapped at her, telling her not to interrupt important meetings. All got a bit upset. Rose could have seriously hurt her if she wasn't careful. All asked how serious the demon threat was, but Rose scolded her again, this time for eavesdropping. Rose downplayed it, saying the situation wasn't that bad. Still, she warned all never to underestimate the enemy. Later, she announced that she'd be personally overseeing everyone's training again. That was not what all wanted to hear. As they returned home, the rest of the knights blamed all for Rose's decision to put them through intense training again. They all took their frustration out on her. All begged for help, but Rose just ignored her, completely focused on preparing them for whatever was coming. A week passed, and more troubling reports came in. Demons were attacking monsters in their own territory. Rose was sent to investigate. She gathered her squad and explained the mission. They'd likely face 10 to 30 enemies. All tried to hype up the group, but the others were still mad at her for dragging them into hardcore training. She pointed out that they were stronger now because of it, but that only made them grumble louder. Rose decided to leave Kakuro, her bunny, behind. This mission was too dangerous, even for him. But to boost morale, she announced that she would personally be joining the team on this mission. That changed everything. Everyone suddenly felt invincible. If their commander was fighting with them, they believed they could give it their all. With Rose around, they didn't have to fear getting hurt, she could heal them. All encouraged them to give it their best shot, and at last, they agreed. The next morning, the team headed into the forest. On the first day, they didn't find anything, so Rose changed plans. They'd explore the west side next, even though it was the riskiest area. The knights wondered if it made more sense to check somewhere else first, but all spoke up. She had a gut feeling something was waiting on the west side. The knights trusted her instincts. As the deputy commander, her word carried weight. They agreed to go with her call. That night, they set up camp. Rose took first watch, but she could tell all was still awake. She jokingly offered to knock her out to help her sleep. Instead, all asked something serious. Why did you make me deputy commander? She didn't think she was special. She mostly ran errands. Rose had trained everyone to be strong, so why her? Rose calmly said that all had never messed up. She always gave it her all, and that's exactly why Rose believed she could someday take over as commander. All freaked out. The others will go nuts if I'm in charge. She thought back to how she used to be, stubborn, rebellious, always disobeying orders. When anyone tried to rein her in, she used her fists to shut them up. She had a reputation for being a strong but uncontrollable knight. Then she met Rose. At first, nothing changed. All stayed stubborn. But Rose wasn't like the others. She didn't back down. She smacked all across the head when she disobeyed, chased her when she tried to desert, and knocked her out cold when all tried to punch her. All actually forgot most of that final beating. Rose hit her that hard. To Rose, it wasn't a big deal, but to all, it meant everything. She'd never had someone keep pushing her forward like that. Everyone else gave up on her eventually, but Rose never did. That's what changed all. She wanted to get stronger, not out of pride, but because she didn't want to lose to Rose. And because someone finally believed in her. Rose, in her usual blunt way, told all that she was just being a brat scared to leave the nest. All was stunned. That's what she got after pouring her heart out. Rose smiled and told her she was serious. She didn't choose all at random. She chose her because all never gave up and always kept moving forward. That mindset would hold the whole team together one day. All slowly started to understand, but Rose teased her for grinning like an idiot and warned her not to get too soft. The world changes, Rose said. You'll have to change with it. But just know this, once a commander, always a commander. Right then, the rest of the knights revealed they'd been listening the whole time. They all cheered for All, saying they'd always trusted her and followed her lead. All, flustered and red-faced, shouted at them to shut up or she'd beat them up before the demons got the chance. The next morning, they finally spotted signs of demons, and they weren't attacking humans. They were killing monsters. It didn't make sense. Why would demons come into Linger territory just to hunt monsters? All suspected there was more to it, but before they could talk it out, a loud noise erupted nearby. They rushed over and found a group of demons, and the demons saw them too. Rose ordered the knights to hang back and confronted the lead demon herself. She asked what they were doing there. The demon, calm and collected, admitted he didn't like this mission either, but said it would benefit them in the future. When Rose demanded a real answer, he refused to say more, so she gave them a chance. If you leave now, she warned, I'll let this slide. The demon chuckled. He admired her guts but said there was no way he could let them live. Rose turned to All and gave her command of the unit. She wouldn't be able to lead while fighting the demon leader. As the rest of the knights prepared for battle, All told them it was time to show the demons just how strong their teamwork was. The lead demon launched his first strike, but Rose moved so fast that she smacked him back before he could react. She followed up instantly, not giving him a second to breathe. Rose already knew his secret. He could control the wind to dodge attacks in an instant. Knowing that, she left the regular soldiers to her knights and focused fully on him. Rose hurled massive tree trunks at him to pin him down and kept hammering him with attack after attack. The demon finally admitted that he'd never seen a human move this fast. Rose didn't care. She wasn't here to talk, just to beat him down. He tried surrounding her with deadly wind blades, thinking she was insane to charge through them. But then she did something he hadn't expected. She started healing herself mid-fight. It clicked. She was a healer, but not just any healer, one with brute strength, speed, and non-stop regeneration. He realized he was facing a monster in human skin. The two finally introduced themselves. His name was Nero. He summoned a deadly weapon and told her plainly, "I'm going to kill you now." Rose just smirked and replied, "Too bad. I'm going to flatten you first." The fight began. Rose was fast and strong, landing several hits on Nero, but he was no ordinary enemy. His sword was cursed and capable of preventing healing. At one point, he managed to cut Rose across the face. She healed the wound, but it became clear that this battle wouldn't be easy. Nero explained that he didn't enjoy his mission but followed orders. He believed Rose and her unit were the biggest threat he'd seen in years. As the fight continued, the other demons began sacrificing themselves in battle. One of Rose's knights was killed, then another. The demons fought with no regard for their own lives, following Nero's lead. Despite her efforts, Rose was unable to save her squad. She tried to stay composed, but her rage grew. Nero's cursed sword struck her eye, preventing her from healing it. With her vision blurred and her team falling one by one, things quickly spiraled out of control. Eventually, all gave her life to protect Rose, and the entire unit was wiped out. Rose was devastated. She blamed herself, believing her overconfidence led to their deaths. When Nero moved in to end the fight, she managed to stop his attack and unleashed her full power. Fueled by sorrow and fury, she defeated him. A young demon girl rushed in to protect Nero, and the moment reminded Rose of all. She let them leave. Rose crawled over to the dying All and tried to heal her, but it was no use. The wound was too deep. All used her last moments to thank Rose and tell her to never change. Rose screamed in grief. Later, Rose reported the demon activity to the king and asked to be removed from her position as battalion commander. She gave up her knighthood out of guilt. The king accepted her request. Afterward, the family of one of her fallen soldiers came to thank her for bringing his body back. They explained how their son had turned his life around thanks to her. Rose returned to her home, now alone, and cried. 1 month passed, and Siglis visited to check on her. She admitted she had considered ending her own life but decided against it. Her wounds had started to heal, though she kept the scar on her eye as punishment for her failure. That scar reminded her every day of the price of weakness. Eventually, she remembered All's last words. Instead of living in grief, she decided to become someone her fallen comrades could be proud of. She took off her bandages, stood tall, and committed herself to building a new kind of team, a rescue force that would save lives on the battlefield. Her new squad would need at least 5 people, including 2 healers. But more importantly, she needed someone who could fight and heal at the same time, someone strong, fast, and unbreakable. That person was Yuzado. Back in the present, Rose told Yuzado she was glad to have found him. She reminded him how special he was, even if he didn't realize it. She said that only 2 people, herself and Yuzado, could handle this level of training and use healing magic in this way. Yuzado had everything she wanted in a battlefield healer. Rose admired him but quickly returned to her usual gruff self when he smiled too hard. Elsewhere, the demons had completed the bridge. Amila gave the demon knight permission to go wild when the war started. The knight didn't take the enemy seriously but looked forward to the fight. Later, the Linger army finished setting up their camp. Yuzado woke up and realized the battle was almost here. Suzune showed off her new armor. It increased her lightning magic and didn't restrict her movement. She proudly told Yuzado that she also had a love for cacti, which confused him. Their argument was interrupted by Kazuki, who saved Yuzado from further teasing. Siglis informed everyone that the demon army would arrive in 30 minutes. The plan was to strike first with a wave of magic. After that, Kazuki and Suzune would lead a charge to clear a path to the enemy general and defeat them if possible. As they waited, Suzune admitted she was nervous but felt empowered because Yuzado accepted her for who she was. Kazuki noticed the change in her and respected it. The demon army soon appeared. The Linger soldiers launched their first attacks, but the demons vanished, revealing that it was just an illusion. The real army was approaching from another direction. At the rear, Rose ordered her squad to prepare. Their mission was to recover the injured but to survive at all costs. Orga and Yuru would stay in a healing tent guarded by Karuku. Rose and Yuzado would enter the battlefield later, but until then, their job was to heal the wounded at base. Yuzado was worried about Suzune and Kazuki, but Yuru reminded him that if he wanted to help them, he first had to stay alive himself, because sooner or later, he would be out there too. Yuzado was at the camp when Tong rushed in carrying the first injured soldier. The wounds looked serious, and Yuzado was clearly shaken, but he pulled himself together and started healing. The injured soldier panicked and said a huge snake had thrown her across the battlefield. Yuzado couldn't help but think about the snake he fought in the forest, but he quickly pushed the thought away to stay focused on healing. Meanwhile, the snake tore through the Linger army with ease. In another part of the battlefield, a soldier thought he had taken down the fearsome Black Knight, but he was quickly proven wrong. The knight turned the tables and stabbed him instead. The terrified soldier tried to escape to warn others, but the knight was done playing around and moved in to finish him. Just as the situation turned grim, G swooped in with his gross-smelling water, grabbed the injured man, and made a quick escape. The Black Knight realized G was one of those rescue runners, the ones who save wounded fighters, and suddenly found the battle far more entertaining. Back at camp, G brought the soldier in and everyone rushed to help. Rose saw this and decided it was time to head to the battlefield. She gave orders to protect the camp and warned Yuzado about a powerful enemy in black armor who used strange magic. This instantly reminded Yuzado of the nightmare vision he had. He froze, shaken by the memory. Rose noticed and asked if he was ready to take a life. Yuzado replied that his job was to save people, but Rose told him he was being naive and gave him advice meant for dire situations, advice we don't hear. Whatever Rose said worked, because Yuzado was now mentally ready. They split up. On the battlefield, things were a mess. Yuzado found a wounded man and saved him mid-fight, managing to dodge attacks as he carried him to safety. Elsewhere, Rose jumped in and saved another soldier. Yuzado told the guy he healed to rest up and get back in the fight. Suzune was showing her strength too, blasting enemies with powerful lightning spells and telling her team to take the injured back to camp. She was clearly bothered by how many people were getting hurt, but she stayed strong for Kazuki. When Kazuki warned her about the giant snake on the field, they both realized they'd have to go after it to reach the enemy commander. Before they could act, the Black Knight appeared. Neither of them had seen a demon like this before. Suzune tried to get her soldiers to stay back, but it was too late, they had already charged. The knight wasn't phased at all and easily knocked everyone back. Suzune guessed that his armor reflected any attack, and when Kazuki tried to strike, her theory proved true. His own magic rebounded on him. While this happened, Yuzado rushed across the battlefield, still haunted by his vision. He suddenly found himself cornered, but the man he saved earlier came to his rescue and told him where the heroes were. Yuzado sprinted off again, hoping he wasn't too late. At the front lines, the Black Knight sent his demon soldiers to fight the weaker troops. Suzune said they had to take him down, but Kazuki thought it was hopeless. Suzune had a plan, though it was risky. Kazuki was scared, but she reminded him that Yuzado could heal them if it went bad. Suzune started by messing with the knight's sight, then she and Kazuki went in for a coordinated strike. The plan didn't work as expected, the attacks were reflected again. But Suzune noticed something, her stab to his back didn't bounce back. She figured the knight couldn't reflect what he couldn't sense. They tried again, this time with speed and distraction. Kazuki used his light magic to blind the knight, and Suzune stabbed him through the back. But it was all a trick. The knight had faked his weakness and activated his reflectability just in time. Suzune was badly hurt, and Kazuki got run through completely. The knight laughed at their failed strategy and revealed that his ability wasn't tied to vision at all, he could just choose what to reflect. He had deliberately let that one attack go through to fool them. Suzune began to panic, thinking everything was lost. She collapsed, regretting not being able to say goodbye to Yuzado. As she blacked out, she remembered happier times when they were just students improving school rules and how happy she was to be accepted by Yuzado for who she truly was. She had felt like everything would be fine as long as she had him and Kazuki. Back in the present, the knight prepared to finish her. Just before he could strike, Yuzado arrived and punched the knight straight in the face. He was devastated that he hadn't arrived in time, but he immediately started healing his friends. The knight, now revealed to be a woman, was furious and attacked again. Yuzado dodged with his friends, and Suzune followed up with her magic. She quickly explained that the knight's armor was probably made of mana and reflected attacks. But for some reason, Yuzado's punch had worked. They were interrupted again by the knight, who demanded revenge. Yuzado really didn't want to fight, but he couldn't walk away. He told Suzune to watch over Kazuki while he covered himself in healing magic and prepared for battle. When he hit the knight again, the attack wasn't reflected. He guessed the knight might be low on mana. His follow-up combo confused her even more. Kazuki woke up, and Suzune explained that Yuzado had saved them. The knight pierced through Yuzado's hand, but he didn't react to the pain, he was healing himself in real time. Kazuki didn't understand at first, but Suzune figured it out, healing magic was the knight's weakness. Since Yuzado's fists were wrapped in healing energy, the hits didn't cause injuries, but they hurt like crazy. The knight released a huge blast and pushed Yuzado away. Everyone was worried, but he promised to finish things. As the knight charged her final attack, Yuzado powered up and met her head on. Their powers clashed, but Yuzado broke through and delivered his strongest punch ever. The energy was so intense, it stripped away her armor. Yuzado won and named the move his ultimate healing punch. He got right back to helping the other wounded soldiers, and people praised him for chasing off the demon army. Suzune told one soldier to go and thanked Yuzado, curious about his technique. Yuzado explained that it was a regular punch coated in healing energy, a trick Rose taught him. The punch doesn't damage enemies, but it knocks them out with the pain, keeping them alive but down. Suzune realized he was really becoming more like Rose. She thanked him again for saving them, and they decided they had to go after the giant snake that was now attacking the front lines. Rose, impressed with Yuzado's performance, told him they didn't need to keep running around and should head back to camp. Yuzado told his friends goodbye for now. They promised to stay alive, knowing how hard Yuzado worked to keep them safe. As he ran off, Rose quietly praised him for surviving, but made sure he didn't hear it. Back at the enemy camp, Amila was furious after hearing that the Black Knight had been completely defeated. She couldn't believe anyone could overpower that armor and magic, especially someone from the rescue squad. At first, she assumed it was Rose, but when she was told it was someone else entirely, she was even more shocked. Another person like Rose. That didn't sit right with her. She thought about joining the fight herself, but realized if she left, their base would be wide open for attack. Besides, the enemy still had Siglis on their side. Meanwhile, Hyreluk went to check on their massive snake weapon, but he was stunned to find that the heroes were already taking it down. They were determined not to let Yuzado down and fought with all their strength to defeat the snake. Back at the main camp, Yuzado was working hard healing the injured. He had to remind one of the meatheads not to mess around during treatment. While everyone stayed focused, they all stopped to look up at the sky as they saw the heroes launching a massive magical attack on the snake. Exhausted but determined, they brought the snake down and everyone cheered. Rose approached Yuzado and informed him that the enemy was pulling back. Yuzado wondered if they were going to chase after them, but Rose shut that idea down, saying it would be foolish. The demons had far greater numbers, so chasing them would only risk more lives. Their real goal was to keep losses to a minimum and prepare for the next battle. Rose said the only reason they won this time was because Yuzado saved the heroes. Yuzado, as usual, was humble. He believed that Rose would have stepped in if he hadn't made it in time. But Rose told him clearly if he hadn't been there, they would have lost the heroes and possibly the entire fight. For the first time, she praised him for doing an excellent job as a member of the rescue team. Yuzado thought back to all the training and hardship he had been through. All the pain, all the battles, all the pushing forward, it was finally paying off. He started to cry, not even sure why. Rose looked at him and realized that under all that strength, Yuzado was still just a kid. Yuzado admitted that being on the battlefield had truly scared him. Seeing people die and demons attacking everywhere was terrifying. But even so, he was glad he met Rose, because thanks to her, he had become someone who could save lives. Rose said there used to be others who said things like that, but now they only lived in her memories. Yuzado was still here, still alive, and for that, she was proud. He smiled at her praise and then collapsed from exhaustion. Rose let him rest, proud of how far he had come. Later, Yuzado recalled being summoned to the castle after the war. He was nervous but happy. It was the first time in his life that he had ever been rewarded. As he tried to tell Blurren about it, the bear was too busy eating to care. Yuzado thought the bear might be getting chubby. Golem soon arrived with a new message. Yuzado had been called back to the castle again. He warned Yuzado to be careful on the way. Yuzado didn't understand why until he stepped outside and got swarmed by townspeople. He didn't even notice that the mysterious girl from earlier was watching him in the crowd. After escaping, a guard thanked Yuzado for saving his comrades. Yuzado said they all did their part and he wouldn't have made it without them either. One of the kids even said Yuzado was strong enough to be in the royal knights someday. Yuzado met the king, who asked for his help with something important. Siglis explained that they needed Yuzado to meet the captured Black Knight. Surprisingly, she had been cooperative with questioning, but refused to say anything else unless she spoke directly to Yuzado. Suzune agreed to go with him and swore to protect him if the Black Knight tried anything. Yuzado teased her, reminding her she already lost to the knight before, but she promised to act as a human shield if needed. Yuzado wasn't sure how he beat the Black Knight, but Siglis had an answer. The knight used dark magic, and Yuzado's healing magic countered it. Their powers cancelled each other out. This gave Yuzado a horrifying realization. If his healing didn't work on her, she had taken all those punches without any protection. He rushed to see her, afraid of how badly she might be injured. Yuzado knew his punches could break bones, and the knight had taken them head on. The Black Knight, however, didn't care. She had accepted the pain. Suzune joked that maybe she was some kind of masochist, but Yuzado didn't find it funny. Inside her cell, the Black Knight didn't know why she had asked to see Yuzado, but thought maybe she just wanted to meet the guy who beat her. Yuzado made them open her cell, and when he reached for her hand, she assumed he was going to hurt her. Instead, he just started healing her. She panicked when the healing magic started removing her armor, but soon calmed down. For the first time, she felt peace, and she didn't want to let go of Yuzado's hand. Tears streamed down her face as she held onto him a little longer. Afterward, Rose told Yuzado she would personally resume his training. With another battle against the demon army on the horizon, there were things he needed to learn. Yuzado was eager to improve his healing magic but was disappointed to hear he still couldn't treat illnesses. His physical strength was already good, so Rose said their new training would focus on dodging. In short, she was going to punch him, and he had to learn to avoid it. Rose told him that he relied too much on healing magic. If he ever faced a cursed weapon, healing wouldn't work, so he had to dodge. Yuzado didn't like being punched by his superior, but Rose was just happy to see him so fired up. She launched him into the sky and punched him in the gut the moment he got back. Later, Yuzado woke up thinking it was a nightmare, but Rose was right there, waiting for him to recover so they could keep going. Days passed. Yuzado complained constantly because just when he got close to dodging, Rose would speed up and punch even faster. He went to talk to the Black Knight about how brutal it was, but she just asked why he was even there. He didn't have training that day, but she seemed nervous as if she wanted to say something. He left before she could. Meanwhile, Rose met with the king. He had 2 requests. At the same time, Yuzado visited Kazuki, who was training hard with Celia watching proudly. Yuzado felt jealous comparing that to his own brutal training. Celia explained that they got all the information they needed from the Black Knight thanks to Yuzado. The king trusted him more than ever. Kazuki wanted to thank Yuzado but stopped himself, not wanting to worry Celia. Later, the Black Knight sat quietly in her cell, wondering why Yuzado had come to visit her before. She heard footsteps and hoped it was him, but it was Rose. Rose told her the king had made a decision. The knight thought she was going to be executed, but Rose said she wasn't that lucky. The 2 choices were stay locked up forever, or be trained directly by Rose herself. The Black Knight thought it was insane, but Rose karate chopped her head and put a magic item on her that sealed her powers. Rose said it would be a waste of resources to let her rot in jail. Instead, she'd turn her into a proper, useful demon. The knight thought she had a choice, but clearly Rose had already made it for her. Back at home, Yuzado was out running with Blurrin to help the little bear get back into shape. But Rose kicked him hard, reminding him that it was supposed to be his day off. Yuzado was stunned when he noticed the Black Knight was now with her. Rose explained that she planned to turn the knight into a helper for the rescue team. Since her magic was sealed and Rose would be watching her directly, there was no danger. Rose planned to train her the same brutal way she trained Yuzado, so he felt bad for the poor demon. That night, Yuzado updated Rose about how the knight had whined all day but calmed down after a warm bath. Rose then revealed that the king wanted to form alliances with nearby countries to prepare for another attack from the demon army. To deliver the king's messages, Suzune, Kazuki, and Yuzado were chosen. Yuzado couldn't believe it, but Rose reassured him that the king trusted him deeply and believed he could handle it. The next morning, a few fangirls wished Yuzado good luck before running off. A vendor apologized for how crowded it got last time, but Yuzado didn't mind. Thinking about how kind everyone in town was, he reminded himself that this mission was for their safety. Just as Suzune showed up, calling their meeting fate, Yuzado spotted the mysterious fox girl again and rushed to catch her. When he did, she told him she had been waiting for him. She needed him to save her mother. Yuzado was shocked, but Suzune was more distracted by how cute the girl was. The fox girl introduced herself as Amako and insisted they talk somewhere private. Meanwhile, the Black Knight was being dragged through harsh training. She was slow and frustrated as the other rescue squad members teased her. She collapsed from exhaustion but was pushed back into training when Rose showed up. At Yuzado's place, Amako explained everything. Her magical ability let her see the future, and she had shown Yuzado a terrible vision because it was the only way to prevent the kingdom from being destroyed. She had come all the way from the Beast Lands to find a healer who could save her mother. Most beastmen couldn't use healing magic, and even though Orga and Yuru were healers, they didn't meet the requirements. Rose was another option, but Amako had already seen a vision where Rose turned her down. That's why she knew Yuzado was the only one who would agree to help. Yuzado was torn because he was on an important mission, but he thought maybe there was a way to stop by the Beast Lands while delivering the king's letters. He went to ask for permission and warned Amako to scream if Suzune acted weird. Rose immediately said they needed to tell the king about Amako since she was a rare future seer. The Beastmen would want her back, which could create problems, but it might also help convince the king to approve Yuzado's trip to the Beast Lands. Later, the Black Knight refused to eat with the team, but Yuzado showed up and told her she had to eat, too. She finally started softening up a little after he gave her a diary to write in, just like he used to do. She recorded her brutal training days and how she couldn't believe how inhuman Yuzado seemed, never out of breath, never backing down. One day, she heard noise from the woods and skipped training to see what it was. It turned out to be Yuzado getting destroyed by Rose. She was shocked he survived, and even more stunned when he dodged one of Rose's punches. He celebrated too early and got kicked, but Rose finally let him go back to normal training. From then on, the knight kept training under Yuzado, still surprised by his endurance. Yuzado eventually asked for her name, and she told him it was Felm, though nobody really called her that. When Blurren showed up to run, Felm got upset Yuzado didn't even use her name after she shared it and decided to race him. That night, Yuzado explained that Felm exhausted herself trying to outrun him and passed out. After healing her, the other guys joked about what he did to her, but Yuzado insisted he just ran normally. They pointed out that Yuzado's version of normal wasn't even human, and before things escalated, Rose showed up to shut them down. The next day, Felm overheard that Yuzado would be going to meet the king. She sneaked out early, but Rose chased her down, assuming she might be trying to run back to the demon army. When she realized Felm was going in the opposite direction, she figured out that Felm just didn't want Yuzado to go alone. Felm denied it, but Rose wasn't buying it. She told her to get back to training. At the castle, Yuzado brought Amako with him. King Lloyd personally thanked the fox girl for helping save the kingdom and said he wanted to repay her. He allowed Yuzado to go to the Beast Lands with Amako after delivering letters to 3 other countries. Whilst he explained the full plan, Kazuki, Suzune, and Yuzado would travel to the First Kingdom together, then Yuzado and Amako would head to the Beast Lands with 2 knights. Yuzado got to choose his escorts. First, he picked Haruko, a gate guard known for being clumsy but loyal. Haruko hesitated but decided to go. For the second, Yuzado surprised everyone by pointing to Blurren, who was just happily chasing a butterfly. Meanwhile, Felm was running for her life from Rose, who had caught her sneaking off. Rose wasn't mad that she tried to follow Yuzado but was furious she didn't ask first. Felm admitted she wasn't used to worrying about someone and definitely wasn't trying to say goodbye. Rose told her that Yuzado was nearly as good a healer as she was and would be fine, but she noticed that Felm clearly cared about him. That night, Yuzado told Felm he would be leaving the next day. Felm kicked him out of frustration, jealous that he was escaping training. Rose warned him that the journey ahead would be nothing like what he had experienced before. In many countries, healing magic was seen as weak. If Yuzado met anyone with that mindset, Rose told him to beat it out of them. She believed the journey would change him but had full faith that he would succeed. The next day, everyone said their goodbyes. The heroes left with Kazuki, Suzune, and Amako leading the way, while Felm collapsed from exhaustion as Rose kept pushing her through training. Yuzado looked ahead, excited and ready for a journey full of new people, tough challenges, and unexpected adventures. And that's where this video ends. Watch this following video until next time.